February 20th, 1944. Over the North Sea, 24,000 feet. The engines never stopped screaming. Inside the aluminum belly of a B-24 Liberator, Staff Sergeant William H. Carter, waist gunner, grips the cold steel of his .50 caliber machine gun. Oxygen mask tight against his face. Fingers numb despite heated gloves. The aircraft shudders as propellers bite into thin air, for Pratt & Whitney engines droning in a rhythm that vibrates through bone. Ahead of him, through a scratched plexiglass window, the sky is no longer empty. It is crowded. Bombers stretch from horizon to horizon, staggered rows, climbing, forming up, slotting into place with mechanical precision. Sunlight flashes off wings. Vapor trails carve white scars across the blue. Somewhere far below, the gray sheet of the North Sea slides past, indifferent. Carter has flown missions before. He has seen formations. But this feels different. He taps the shoulder of the radio operator and points. "Jesus," the man mutters. "It just keeps going." You can feel it in the aircraft. Not fear, not yet, but scale. A pressure. The sense that something immense has been set in motion, and no one inside this aluminum tube can stop it. This is Operation Argument, the Big Week, the largest coordinated assault on German aircraft production ever attempted. Thousands of bombers, thousands more fighters, an aerial armada moving east. Inside one of the lead aircraft, the pilot checks his instruments, jaw clenched. He doesn't say it out loud, but he's thinking the same thing as everyone else. How did they build this many? 3 hours later, Berlin. Reich Air Ministry. General Adolf Galland, inspector fighters for the Luftwaffe, stands at a map table littered with pins and strings. Reports are coming in faster than aides can sort them. Formation size, unprecedented. Escort fighters, deep penetration. Losses, mounting. Galland removes his glasses and rubs his eyes. This is not the first mass raid. But it is the first time the Americans have returned again and again, wave after wave, without pause, without apparent exhaustion. Factories hit yesterday are hit again today. Airfields repaired overnight are cratered by noon. What reserves do they have left? Someone asks quietly. No one answers. Because the truth, still unspoken, is beginning to surface. The Americans are not running out. 6,000 kilometers away. Willow Run, Michigan. December 1943. Snow piles against the edges of the largest factory building on Earth. Inside, the air smells of oil, aluminum shavings, and hot steel. The sound is constant. Riveting guns hammering in staccato bursts, overhead cranes whining, engines testing, conveyors rolling forward inch by inch. The building stretches nearly a mile long. So long that workers joke you could lose a bicycle inside it. This is Willow Run, Ford Motor Company's bomber plant. And right now, on the moving assembly line, B-24 serial number 42 to 52,403 inches forward. A woman named Eleanor Mitchell, 26, former department store clerk, tightens bolts along the wing route. She works fast. She has done this motion hundreds of times today. Muscle memory. No hesitation. She doesn't see the whole airplane, only her section. That is the point. When the bell rings, she steps back. The aircraft moves forward. Another worker steps in. Eleanor glances up at a clock mounted high on a steel beam. 63 minutes. That's the target. One completed bomber every hour. The idea would have sounded insane in 1941. Aircraft were handcrafted, slow, skilled labor intensive. A single bomber might take months to complete. German factories, British factories, even early American ones, followed that logic. But Henry Ford's engineers thought differently. Cars were not built by master craftsmen shaping an entire machine. They were built by systems, processes, interchangeable parts, moving lines. Now, that philosophy has been turned loose on war. At Willow Run, no one builds a bomber. They build a step. Fuselage sections arrive by rail, wings by truck, engines by convoy. Everything measured, timed, standardized. If a part doesn't fit, it isn't adjusted, it's rejected. The system does not slow down for humans. Humans adapt to the system. Back over Europe, flak bursts bloom like black flowers around Carter's aircraft. The formation tightens instinctively. Fighters appear, Messerschmitts slashing through the bomber stream, cannons flashing. Carter fires. Tracers arc outward. Somewhere, an aircraft peels away trailing smoke. There is no time to count losses. No time to mourn. The formation presses on. Because behind them, unseen, unimaginable, another formation is already being built. Right now. On a factory floor where the line never stops moving. February 21st, 1944. Augsburg, Germany. The bomb run lasts 30 seconds. That is all. 30 seconds of straight, level flight, the longest half-minute a bomber crew will ever experience. Flak thickens. The aircraft feels suddenly fragile, like glass under hammers. "Bombs away!" the bombardier shouts. The Liberator leaps upward as 4,000 pounds of explosives drop free. A heartbeat later, the formation banks, peeling away in disciplined arcs. Below, the Messerschmitt engine plant erupts, fire, smoke, debris punching skyward. Carter swivels his gun, scanning for fighters. His ears ring. His mouth tastes like metal. When it's over, when the engines settle back into cruise, he looks out again. The sky is still full. Not thinning. Not breaking apart. Still full. Later that night. Berchtesgaden. Field Marshal Albert Kesselring studies aerial reconnaissance photographs laid across a polished table. Burned factories. Rail yards shattered again, days after repair crews cleared them. Aircraft plants reduced to skeletons. A junior officer gestures to one image. "This plant was struck twice this week, Herr Feldmarschall." Kesselring nods slowly. "And it will be struck again." He taps the photo with a finger. "What I want to know," he says, voice flat, "is how many bombers they can afford to lose." Silence. The Luftwaffe has numbers. They track American losses meticulously. Shot down over Germany. Crashed on landing. Written off. But something doesn't add up. American formations are not shrinking. They are growing. Washington, D.C. War Department Briefing Room. January 1944. General Henry Hap Arnold, commander of the U.S. Army Air Forces, leans over a table crowded with charts. Production graphs slope upward at angles that would have seemed absurd 3 years earlier. B-17s. B-24s. Engines. Crews. A colonel clears his throat. "Sir, current output means we can replace the entire 8th Air Force in." Arnold raises a hand. "I know," he says quietly. "That's why we're going to keep pressing." This is not bravado. It is arithmetic. The American war plan has crossed a threshold where losses, even catastrophic ones, no longer dictate strategy. They are factored in, absorbed, replaced. Behind every aircraft lost over Europe, another is already rolling off a line in Michigan, California, Texas. The Germans are fighting a war of tactics. The Americans are fighting a war of throughput. Willow Run, Michigan. March 1944. The factory runs 3 shifts now. 24 hours a day. Lights blazing through the night, reflecting off snowbanks like a city that never sleeps. Eleanor Mitchell rubs her wrists during a 10-minute break. She has learned not to complain. Everyone here is tired. Everyone's hands ache. But the line moves regardless. A foreman walks past holding a clipboard. "We're at 63 minutes," he calls out. "Management wants 62. Someone laughs. Not because it's funny, because it's unbelievable. In one corner of the plant, a completed Liberator rolls forward. Its olive drab skin gleams under factory lights. White star and bar freshly painted. Bomb bay doors closed. A photographer snaps a picture. No one poses. Another bell rings. The next airframe advances. Somewhere over central Germany. March 6, 1944. The Luftwaffe attacks with desperation now. Rocket firing Me-109s charge head-on, firing salvos into the bomber stream. FW-190s slash through from below. Explosions rip apart aircraft mid-formation. Carter watches a Liberator to his left disintegrate, wings shearing away, fuselage folding, men tumbling into open sky. He keeps firing. When the fighters finally disengage, the formation is ragged, but intact. And then, from behind, new contrails appear. Fresh bombers sliding into position. You feel it then. Not hope. Not relief. Inevitability. Berlin. Luftwaffe headquarters. General Galland stares at lost reports spread across his desk. Fighter attrition is unsustainable. Fuel shortages are worsening. Experienced pilots are irreplaceable. He circles one figure with a pencil. American bomber production estimates. "Impossible," he mutters. An aide hesitates. "Sir, intelligence confirms the Willow Run plant alone is producing one heavy bomber roughly every hour." Galland looks up sharply. "One plant?" "Yes, Herr General." Galland leans back, eyes unfocused. In the First World War, victory came down to men, courage, and exhaustion. Armies bled until one side collapsed. This war is different. This war is being decided in places no pilot can bomb. Assembly lines, rail hubs, power grids, training schools, factories where the enemy does not slow down when you shoot down his planes, because the planes are not the bottleneck. The system is. And the system is winning. Willow Run. Late spring, 1944. A banner hangs above the line. One bomber every 63 minutes. It is not propaganda. It is a scoreboard. Eleanor glances at it as she works, tightening bolts on another wing route, another aircraft she will never see fly. She thinks of her brother, somewhere overseas. She does not know where. She works faster. The line moves. And across the Atlantic, German commanders are beginning to understand a terrifying truth. They are no longer fighting an air force. They are fighting an industrial phenomenon they cannot bomb into submission. April 10, 1944. Schweinfurt, Germany. The city wakes under the distant thunder of engines. Factory workers pause in the streets, heads tilting upward. They have learned the sound, the deep, layered roar that rolls ahead of the bombers like approaching weather. Inside a reinforced command bunker outside the city, Oberstleutnant Karl Hesse, Luftwaffe operations officer, watches the plotting board fill with markers. Red arrows crawl west to east. One of his aides swallows hard. Herr Oberstleutnant, this formation is larger than last month. Hesse nods, already aware. Larger than last month. Larger than last week. Larger than yesterday. They always are. Over the target, Carter's Liberator bucks violently as flak detonates beneath the belly. The aircraft lurches, then steadies. The pilot's voice crackles through the intercom, controlled but tight. Hold formation. Below, Schweinfurt's ball-bearing plants lie waiting, rebuilt, repaired, patched together after previous raids. German engineers have worked miracles keeping them operational. It doesn't matter anymore. The sky darkens as bomb bay doors open across hundreds of aircraft at once. The earth seems to rise toward the bombers. Carter watches through the haze as explosions walk across the industrial district in methodical patterns. It looks less like destruction and more like erasure. When the formation turns for home, smoke blankets the city in a gray shroud that stretches for miles. Hesse will later write in his report that the attack was beyond any reasonable scale of air operations. Privately, he thinks of a simpler word: unstoppable. Berlin. Reich Chancellery Conference Room. Maps cover the walls. Not fronts, factories. Production nodes. Transportation arteries. Albert Speer, Reich Minister for Armaments, stands rigid as he addresses the room. He is calm, but his eyes betray strain. Our dispersal program is working, he insists. Output has not collapsed. A general interrupts him. But it cannot grow. Speer turns. No, he says. It cannot. That is the difference. German industry can adapt. It can hide. It can recover. But it cannot multiply. Not under constant bombardment. Not with shrinking labor pools. Not with fuel shortages strangling every process. The Americans are not merely replacing losses. They are expanding while under fire. The room falls silent. No one needs to say it aloud. The air war is no longer a contest of brilliance or courage. It is a contest of capacity. And Germany is losing. Willow Run, Michigan. May 1944. The line breaks a record. 59 minutes. A bomber rolls off final assembly, engines installed, control surfaces tested, paint still drying. Applause breaks out spontaneously. Brief, exhausted, almost embarrassed. A supervisor shakes hands with a Ford executive. Cameras flash. A reporter scribbles notes. But the line does not stop. It never stops. In another part of the plant, Charles Sorensen, Ford's production chief, studies the flow with a stopwatch. He is not smiling. Where can we shave 30 seconds? He asks. Someone points to a tool change. Another suggests repositioning a jig. They are not thinking about Germany. They are thinking about time. Southern England. B-24 training base. New crews arrive every week. Young men, some barely 20, file into briefing rooms, eyes wide as instructors point at maps of Europe. They listen to lectures on flak patterns, fighter tactics, emergency procedures. Outside, rows of brand new Liberators gleam on hard stands. No dents. No patched bullet holes. No history yet. One pilot runs a hand along the nose art of his assigned aircraft. It smells of fresh paint. How many of these things do they have? He whispers to another crewman. The answer is no longer a number anyone can grasp. Berlin, June 1944. Gallon stands at a window, watching smoke drift above the city after another daylight raid. American fighters now roam freely overhead, strafing airfields, locomotives, anything that moves. An intelligence officer hands him a report. Projected U.S. heavy bomber production for 1944. Gallon reads it once. Then again. He sets the paper down carefully. For every aircraft we destroy, he says slowly, they replace it faster than we can train a pilot to shoot it down. The officer nods. That means, Gallon continues, almost to himself, that tactics no longer matter. It is a devastating realization for a professional soldier. The war in the air has crossed a point of no return, where individual victories are irrelevant against an enemy that manufactures momentum itself. Over France. Early June 1944. Carter's crew flies another mission. This time, the formation seems endless even before takeoff. He looks down at the English countryside slipping away beneath them, then up at the bomber streams converging from every direction. Thousands of aircraft. He thinks of the factory workers he has never met. The hands that tighten bolts. the people who made this possible without ever seeing a flak burst. For the first time, a strange calm settles over him. Not confidence. Certainty. Because no matter what happens to this aircraft, or him, the machine behind the war will continue to turn. And somewhere in Michigan, the next bomber is already moving down the line. June 18, 1944. Berlin, Tempelhof Airfield. Rain slicks the concrete as a line of exhausted Bf-109s taxis in, engines coughing, fuel gauges hovering near empty. Ground crews wait silently. There are fewer of them now. Fewer pilots, too. General Adolf Galland walks the field with hands clasped behind his back, coat collar turned up against the drizzle. A mechanic snaps to attention, then hesitates. "Herr General," he says quietly, "we lost 3 more pilots this morning." Galland nods once. 3 pilots is a tragedy. 3 bombers, to the Americans, is a rounding error. Normandy. The same day. Above the invasion beaches, the sky is layered, fighters low, medium bombers above them, heavy bombers higher still. The Luftwaffe appears only in brief, desperate flashes. From his gun position, Carter watches columns of vehicles moving inland. Endless trucks. Endless ships offshore. Endless aircraft overhead. The invasion is not being supported by air power. It is being sustained by it. And behind that air power lies something no German countermeasure can reach. Willow Run, Michigan. Mid-June 1944. A newly completed Liberator pauses at the end of the line. Inspectors swarm it, checking panels, control cables, electrical systems. A clipboard changes hands. A stamp slams down. Accepted. The aircraft rolls forward, nose pointing toward a hangar door that opens like a gateway to daylight. Outside, a crew waits to ferry it east. Eleanor Mitchell wipes grease from her hands and watches it go. She doesn't cheer anymore. None of them do. This has become routine. War, converted into schedule. Berlin. High Command meeting. Maps are still on the walls. So are charts. But the mood has shifted. There are no bold plans now, only mitigation. "How long can we maintain fighter operations at current rates?" someone asks. Speer answers honestly. "Months. Perhaps less." No one argues. Someone else finally says what everyone has known for weeks. "We cannot win the air war." The sentence hangs in the room, heavier than any bomb. Not may not. Not if conditions change. Cannot. Because the enemy is no longer constrained by time. Over Germany. Late summer, 1944. Carter flies another mission. And another. The flak is still deadly. Fighters still attack. Men still die. But the formations never shrink. Each time he lands, he sees more aircraft on the field than when he took off. Replacement crews arrive with new faces and clean uniforms. Replacement bombers arrive with unscarred aluminum skins. The war grinds on, but it grinds unevenly. On one side, dwindling fuel, irreplaceable pilots, factories operating under rubble and blackout. On the other, lights on all night, lines moving forward, clocks measuring minutes. Willow Run. Autumn 1944. The banner has been updated. 1 bomber every 60 minutes. Management calls it optimization. The Germans would call it annihilation. Berlin. Early 1945. Galland stands amid ruins now. No maps. No illusions. The sound of engines still echoes overhead. American engines. He looks up, knowing what he will see. Not one formation. Many. Layered. Relentless. He understands now what stunned him too late. You cannot outfly a nation that builds airplanes the way others build automobiles. You cannot defeat an enemy whose strategy is production itself. The war in the air was lost not over Berlin, or Schweinfurt, or Normandy, but on a factory floor in Michigan, where time was measured in minutes, and victory was stamped, riveted, and rolled forward without pause. Willow Run. War's end. The line finally stops. Not because it failed. Because the enemy surrendered. Eleanor sets down her tools and listens to the sudden, unfamiliar quiet. For the first time in years, nothing moves. Somewhere across the ocean, the sky is finally empty.